Hey guys, today is our last discussion of the Point Man Expanded. And today we're going to talk about mission. Mission is what drives everything. It is the mission that sets the direction, it is the mission that makes protection essential. But the mission for a Christian man is that we love. Many of you will know that Jesus is asked, by a lawyer one day. He says, "What's the greatest commandment?" And he said, "The greatest commandment is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength." That's the good old King James version. But he says that the second is like unto it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And the mission primarily is to love. And I could talk about a lot of different Bible scriptures and stuff about that, but the bottom line, the foundation of what separates us from everybody else must be love. And when it comes to being the point man, when it comes to being the one who's the leader of your family, this love is very centered on them. Okay. Now, for some of you that are listening and watching, this will be the easiest of any of the things I've talked to you about. For some of you, this might be the hardest. But I'm going to tell you this. The mission for us as the point men in our families is to love our families hard. Love your family hard. And what I mean is that you got to love them so that they feel it. They got to know. They got to know that you love them. That is your job, dad, point man, husband. That's your job. And if you don't do that right, nothing else matters. Nothing. Because you're not reflecting God. Scripture says that God is love. And if your family can't look at you and see that reflected in your life, you're going to have trouble. And it's going to be really hard for you to lead that family of yours, because they might know that you love them, but they don't know here that you love them. They don't feel it. And you got to make that a real thing. You got to find out how your family needs to be loved. So the cheat sheet here is that there's a great book called The 5 Love Languages. And for those of you who have never read it, there are 5 primary ways that people communicate and receive love. The problem with that is that, like for instance, my wife and I, we found out when we read the book that really what the root problem in our relationship was, which is I was telling her I loved her in my language, and she was telling me she loved me in her language, and we were not communicating. It was a mess because we weren't speaking each other's language, so we couldn't feel it. You got me? So she's feeling unloved, I'm feeling unloved, and we're wondering, what's the deal? And it's only because we didn't understand how each one was communicating that love. So you need to ask and maybe read the book. Especially you and your wife need to read the book and really assess where each of you is, so that you know how to communicate your love more effectively. For instance, here, let me give you the 5 love languages. So the first is, at least these are out of my brain, so it could be out of order according to the book, but the first that comes to mind for me is quality time. And quality time is just that. It's time being together. So that can be dates. That can be a lot of different things. The second is acts of service. And that's things like taking out the garbage, washing the car, making sure the lawn's mowed, all the stuff, you having a job, providing for your family. Those are acts of service that communicate love. And that's another love language. Words of affirmation is another love language, is to tell them that you love them. That is a big deal on my part. And my daughters never go to bed without hearing that I love them at some point in the day, usually several times, because that's how I express love through my language. Another is gifts. and you just buy them stuff. It's the easiest, just so you know. It's the most expensive probably, other than maybe maybe quality time. I don't know, but gifts is easy. You buy them stuff, they're happy, they feel loved. That is one of Mariah's biggest love languages. And then there's physical touch, which is usually how guys communicate love. So these are the 5 love languages. But you've got to figure out how it is that they work with each person. So like Gabrielle is quality time. That is her love language. And there will be points that she says, I need a date with you, Dad. I need to be with you. And so we'll go grab breakfast or whatever. We'll hang out together and we'll just be together and talk. And she's good for a couple weeks then because her love tank is full. For Mariah, I mentioned that it's gifts, and gifts get expensive, especially on a pastor's salary. So one of the things I found with Mariah is that she loves when I just play with her. So like I'll attack her or I'll tickle her or things like that, because those things communicate love to her. For Denise, she's quality time and she's works acts of service. And so those are the things that in my house I have to use. Now, what you probably noticed is that none of those are my love languages. I am a words of affirmation guy, and I'm physical touch. And so they picked the exact 3 that are not my love languages. But I had to adjust how I communicated with them my love so that they knew that I love them, that they felt it. It was something that was real to them, not just something I felt for them. What you're going to do when you do that is you're going to create a solidity in your family and in your children and your wife that you can't get any other way. There's going to be crazy stuff that happens in this world. There's going to be bad days. There's going to be times that they are going to feel like the world is against them and that they got nothing. That's just part of living in this crummy world sometimes, right? But when they know that they're loved, especially by their dad, it gives them an anchorage that's rare. And you as the point man can give them that, but you have to choose that. You have to choose it because it's not always natural. It's not always natural. In fact, it usually isn't. Some of you will know the story about when when Gavi was born, and she was a little girl. I didn't know what to do with girls. I mean, what was I going to do with a girl? I had my whole plan for what I was going to do with my son, and I got this little girl, and then I got a second one. But one of the best things that ever happened to me is I'd come home from work, and Gavi would be 3, 2.5, 4, and I'd come home and she'd want to play Barbies, and I would play Barbies with Gabrielle for at least half an hour, and I would time it on my watch when my half an hour was up, because I hated playing Barbies, but I love being with my daughter and seeing her happy. And so I played Barbies with her every day. Sad truth is that one of the happiest moments of my young father years was getting a getting a Ken doll. I wanted a G.I. Joe doll. I got a Ken doll. I was ecstatic, because now I had a boy. At least I was a boy and not like a Barbie, okay? But I promise you this. The foundations that I laid there are everything that I'm currently enjoying with my daughter, Gabrielle. And there's other stories from Mariah, but they're not near as humiliating as playing Barbie. So there's just not as good of an example. But gentlemen, if you're going to be the point man, if you're really going to be the man in your house, then you've got to choose to love your family the way they will feel it. Because then you're going to look like God to them. And then they'll begin to see who he really is. Because they'll see it in you. So, the mission, my brothers, the mission in being the point man in your family is love your family hard. Let them see what it looks like to be loved by a man of God, and thereby what it looks like to be loved by God himself. All right. So go do it. Go do it. God bless you. Talk to you soon.